Boy finds a powerful robotic arm that destroys any enemy on its own. If you dig my recaps, don't forget to subscribe and smash that notification bell. Pedaling through the futuristic city of Kitakagami, the protagonist of this story suddenly has his attention drawn to a strange occurrence on top of a building. Just minutes earlier, inside the building, armed security guards discovered that an important item was being stolen by a young woman. Using the robotic limbs attached to her body, she skillfully climbs the structure with incredible ease and makes it back to the balcony, only to be met by dozens of men aiming their weapons at her. Then a tattoo on her leg emits a strange glow, enhancing her metallic limbs. Witnessing this, one of the guards shouts that she's a mecha-UD user. The machine's speed and strength were unreal, but the security team had anti-mecha-UD weapons and managed to immobilize her. At that moment, a man with mechanical limbs of his own shows up to retrieve the stolen item. The girl's machine, which seems to have a life of its own, is shocked to see another of its kind working against its species. But the man claims that mecha-UDs are nothing more than tools for humans. He then pulls the item back with his bladed chains, but the girl commands Sinis and Dex to devour the enemy. Her metallic limbs break free from their restraint and charge at him, igniting an intense battle. During the fight, security begins firing again, but the woman evades the bullets and keeps fighting. After a fierce exchange of blows, she manages to retrieve the item from her opponent's hand, but a crack in the glass causes the object to explode, emitting a beam of light that the protagonist saw from a distance. Following the explosion, a cube leaks out from the container and falls off the building. The next day, Hikaru Amatsuga wakes up to a voice in his head asking for help. At the same time, his alarm clock rings, completing its job. A while later, Hikaru leaves the house with his bag. Around the city, advertisements and drones from Kagami Corporation line every corner as Hikaru takes a crowded subway, still wondering what happened the day before. While researching, he finds an article on the life's work of Naohito Kagami. In the comments, someone mentions that it's pointless for regular people to even try. Just then, a man falls asleep on Hikaru's shoulder, interrupting his reading. Standing in the subway, a pregnant woman catches his attention, and two older ladies are probably gossiping about the young man's lack of manners. But Hikaru is simply trapped by the sleepy passenger. Turning back to his phone, he sees an ad for Kitakagami Prep School, which makes him start sweating nervously. As Hikaru remains frozen, the sleeping guy gives up his seat to the pregnant woman. In reality, Hikaru remembers he forgot something and needs to get off, but three schoolmates approach him in the subway to chat on the way to school. During their conversation, someone mentions receiving a sports ball, and Tagawa says that when it comes to baseball, Yakumo Kagami is the biggest celebrity in Kitakagami, but that now it's going to be the era of the monster Kasuke Tagawa. The prep school ad had the slogan, "Take a step forward, seize your future." But Tagawa thinks regular people like them are struggling precisely because they can't take that step forward. He asks Hikaru's opinion on the matter, but Hikaru was zoning out on his phone and didn't hear anything. Meanwhile, the girl with the mecha-UD learns from her mechanical arm that the cube must be nearby. After taking his eyes off his phone, Hikaru tells the story of what happened the day before. According to him, after thinking, he heard a voice. He looked out the window and saw the area around the Kagami building glowing in a strange way. When he climbed to a high spot for a better view, the building exploded and he recorded it. Along with the explosion, a glowing object was falling from the building, but none of it was caught on camera. At that moment, a girl named Shiriyama joins the group to see what's going on, and Tagawa tells her that Hikaru's been having bizarre hallucinations about voices and things exploding. Another friend asks what the voice sounded like, and Hikaru, embarrassed, admits it was someone asking for help. As soon as he says this, he feels an intuition that the voice came from a certain direction, so the protagonist runs off without explaining further to his friends. Hikaru reaches a place where crossing is prohibited, and a police officer makes that very clear. Once the officer leaves, Hikaru hears the voice even more clearly, so he crosses the "do not pass" line and heads toward a grated door where the back of the room was completely dark. Mustering his courage, Hikaru enters and finds the cube that fell from the building, trying to figure out if the voice came from inside the object. When the cube finally asks for help right in front of him, Hikaru realizes it wasn't just his imagination. Suddenly, the item climbs onto Hikaru's hoodie and emits that same intense light that could be seen from miles away, catching the attention of the girl with the mechanical limbs. A robotic arm emerges from the cube and slowly realizes it's safe. Hikaru spins around trying to understand what's happening and eventually notices something clinging clinging to his back. Naturally, he's utterly shocked and trembling with fear, while the mechanical arm thanks him for saving it and tries to introduce itself, though it seems to have forgotten its own name. Panicking, Hikaru tries to pull the robotic arm off, but as it starts to cry, Hikaru apologizes, still confused. Just then, a delivery drone from Kagami Group announces that the target has been located. Identifying Hikaru as a potential ARMS member, the drone pursues him with spinning blades. Hikaru runs for it with the metallic arm grabbing onto his pants to avoid being left behind. However, this causes Hikaru's pants to fall, making him trip. At that moment, Hikaru offers the robotic arm to the drone, thinking it's the target they're after. But when attacked, the arm manages to repel the enemy and shut it down. Still, several other drones appear with the same mission, and the robotic arm warns Hikaru that they must work together to escape. In the meantime, in a gigantic office building, an important man learns that the trigger arm has been found and that it made contact with someone unrelated to the company, likely a civilian. Upon hearing this, the company's president Naohito Kagami decides to leave the resolution of the problem to his subordinates. One of them orders a perimeter of 2 miles to be established around the area where the civilian was spotted, with instructions that the trigger arm must be recovered at all costs regardless of what happens to the kid. Speaking of the devil Hikaru and his unlikely new friend Hyde, to avoid being spotted by the drones, and their plan works, soon they are safe. Relieved, Hikaru asks what the robotic arm is exactly, but that's a question the arm can't answer since it doesn't even remember its own name. However, it does know one thing: the boy standing before it is kind. Hikaru responds that he hasn't done anything special, but the arm insists it was saved, explaining that without arbitrium, it wouldn't be able to move as well as it is. Hikaru questions what arbitrium is, but the robot ignores the question and instead asks for the boy's name. Returning the favor, Hikaru ignores the question and simply wishes the arm good luck in life. Despite the robot's pleas, the boy turns his back and walks away, but as the trigger arm nearly loses all its power, Hikaru becomes concerned and runs back to check what happened. With that, the arm functions at full capacity again. Hikaru, now frustrated, walks away once more, but the cycle repeats itself. Each time Hikaru distances himself from the machine, it weakens. Realizing there's no other way, the boy gives in and stays by the robot's side. During this interval, drones locate the pair, so the trigger arm takes charge, dashing off with Hikaru in tow, quite literally dragging him along the ground without a care. A Kagami employee observes the situation from above, assuming the drones will handle everything, allowing him to focus on the girl who should be nearby. Speaking of her, Aki Murasama is guided by her mechanical arms towards the path where the mysterious beam originated. When faced with a narrow fork in the road, she decides to cross it anyway, knowing it would shorten her journey. Back to Hikaru, he manages to take control of the sprint, escaping on his own 2 feet, but his exhaustion isn't much better than being dragged. That's when Aki catches up to him and takes charge, bringing Sinis and Dex back into the fight. With ease, the machines destroy all the enemy drones, and the woman turns to the trigger arm, calling it Alma and warning it not to move unless it wants to die. One of Aki's arms insists she must first promise to protect them, but the other arm argues that it no longer matters. Then the mysterious Kagami employee reappears, eager to settle the score for what Aki did to him the previous night. Aki replies that she has no business with the man, while Hikaru and Alma attempt to escape through the narrow path. The girl moves to pursue the duo, but the enemy reacts and prevents her from leaving. Amid the chaos, Hikaru crosses the fork and evades more drones. Aki is furious at the interference of her rival, while the protagonist starts losing his composure amidst this wild and sudden turn of events in his life. Even though he manages to keep running, the exhaustion is catching up to him. Seeing this, Alma offers to stay behind, saying that Kagami is after him, not the boy. And if there's one thing Alma doesn't want, it's for this kind-hearted kid to get hurt for no reason. At that moment, Aki finds the pair after defeating the Kagami employee, now free to carry out her mission. Alma promises to obey the girl if she lets the boy go, but Hikaru remembers reading a report that said ordinary people never even get a chance, and so he decides not to leave the mechanical arm alone in this mess. Seeing that Hikaru is going to resist, Aki sees no choice but to use force, readying her mecha Yude for battle. As this happens, Alma asks for Hikaru's trust and urges him to take a step forward, saying that only by working together will they have a chance. Upon hearing this, the boy recalls the advertisements for Kagami's prep school, always trying to convince people that life is comes easy, which fills him with a surge of anger, propelling him to charge at the adversary. In that instant, Alma activates its mechanism, multiplying in size and strength. With a powerful punch, it slams Aki into the ground. With that, Hikaru and his robotic companion get the chance to escape, and that's exactly what they do. Around the perimeter, other Kagami employees are closing and searching for the fugitives, while the boy and his metal arm take the most improbable paths to avoid being found. Amidst the escape, Hikaru mentions he heard Alma's name from the woman, and introduces himself to the mecha youth. Meanwhile, a young boy collapses in exhaustion upon discovering someone has stolen Alma from him. Using an inhaler, he tries to catch his breath, furiously declaring that the trigger arm belongs to him. At the same time, the leader of a group rivaling Kagamis to which Aki belongs laments her failure, but emphasizes that Alma must be recovered before it falls into enemy hands. With this in mind, Aki is sent back on the same mission. Without delay, the investigators quickly identify the boy who tried to escape with the trigger arm, a random middle schooler who got caught up in the whole mess. According to Investigator 2's, finishing him off would be a cruel order. On the other hand, her partner Wana replies that this demonstrates the importance of the trigger arm, and then questions if she has feelings for the boy. 2's responds by pinching his leg hard, stating that it's because of people like him they are never taken seriously. Wana acknowledges that 2's works hard, and she assures him that she wouldn't hesitate even if it was against a child. When Hikaru went to the school bathroom, he never imagined that woman would follow him to the ends of the earth. Alma appeared to comment that surprisingly Aki wasn't showing any signs of wanting to fight. Hikaru added that they probably wouldn't be attacked even in the classroom, so Alma suggested they talk to Aki, saying there was so much going on in that earlier mess that they didn't even have time to say anything. But he was sure that woman just wanted to chat. Hikaru remembered Aki making it very clear she intended to kill him, so he wasn't too convinced by that story. In fact, he thought it might be better to call the police or something. Lost in his thoughts, Hikaru was caught off guard when he realized Alma had unrolled the entire toilet paper roll, practically covering them both in the bathroom. According to the arm, the contraption was so fascinating, he just couldn't help it. And then out of nowhere, Aki appeared and suggested that the young man shouldn't say anything to the police because the officers were just pawns of the Kagami group. If they caught Hikaru, they would deliver him straight to the boss. Amidst this chaos, Aki offered to be his bodyguard. Desperate, Hikaru complained that this was the men's bathroom and bolted out of there as fast as he could, still wrapped in a bunch of toilet paper. Shirayama saw the chaos unfold before her eyes, but what terrified her was the sight of Aki chasing after him just as relentlessly. Later, Hikaru met up with his friends who wanted to know what his deal was with Aki. The poor guy tried to explain that he was literally being chased, but his friends didn't believe him, thinking he was just hiding something. Speak of the devil, when Aki showed up again, one kid casually pointed out where Hikaru was, but by then he'd already taken off and managed to hide. Suddenly, Shirayama approached Aki and introduced herself. Seeing that the girl seemed extremely agitated, she offered Aki a box of cookies. While Shirayama explained the flavors represented in the package, Alma and Hikaru were scared out of their minds that this crazy woman might hit the girl or something, but to their surprise, Aki dove into the sweets without a second thought, as if there was nothing to worry about. In fact, the two seemed to be developing a friendship, even though Aki clearly had no talent for social interactions. Since Shirayama was more open and extroverted, the two got along, leaving Hikaru wondering what in the world was going on. Alma suggested the boy should go talk to Aki now, but Hikaru had a better idea: sleep. Alma grumbled, but the boy explained that he couldn't talk about the mechanical arm while at school. Setting that aside, Alma asked what Hikaru had just pulled from his pocket. Hikaru explained that they were headphones used for listening to music and things like that. These particular ones had a noise-canceling feature, eliminating all the surrounding noise. Hearing this, Alma was fascinated. As this strange interaction played out, Shirayama brought up Hikaru's situation, with Aki whispering advice to her. When Hikaru returned to school, Alma continued insisting he talk to Aki, but the boy didn't feel emotionally ready. Shirayama chased after him and handed him a note from Aki in which the strange girl asked to meet him in the art room of the old school building after class. Shirayama scolded her friend, saying that Aki had been looking for him all day but couldn't find him, leaving Hikaru speechless in the middle of this crazy situation. Figuring he was just shy about meeting new people or something, the girl dragged Hikaru to the meeting spot. with Aki telling him to accept that woman's love with all his heart. Hikaru then came face to face with her inside the room and thought that the mecha-yude wielder had used Shirayama to get what she wanted. However, Aki made it clear that it was Meru herself who had planned it all. Hearing Aki use Shirayama's first name made Hikaru lose his mind, as they had literally just met that day. Putting that aside, he wanted to know what this crazy girl wanted. Aki explained that she was a member of ARMS and had been tasked with protecting the trigger arm. Her first mission was to take it back to HQ, but since Hikaru had bonded with the arm, they had no choice but to take the human along as well. Alma admitted he would like to know more about himself since he had no idea who he was anymore, so Hikaru accepted the conditions, especially since Alma grew weak whenever they were apart. Aki tried to figure out why all this was happening, and anxious about the whole situation, Hikaru tried to get her attention. One of the arms told him to be quiet because Aki was terrible at thinking about difficult things. Finally, she declared that they needed to examine the robotic arm as soon as possible, and that Hikaru had no choice in the matter. So Hikaru asked if Alma could get big again like he did earlier to fend off threats. The mecha-yude did as requested, unleashing all his power. Aki was impressed by the display, but as the arm lost all its strength, in a matter of seconds Hikaru grabbed the arm and bolted before things could go wrong. Just as Alma was complaining that the human couldn't be running in the hallway, Aki was chasing the two of them with all her fury. Shirayama pokes his head in and reminds his friend that he needs to talk to Aki properly, causing Hikaru to panic and search desperately for an escape from the place. Meanwhile, Tuz is trying to track down his target inside the old school, while Warner informs him that a student is guarding the entrance so he can't get close. Hikaru finds himself trapped inside and realizes his last chance of escape is by going up the stairs. One of Aki's arms directs her to the fire escape, while another suggests the opposite direction for no logical reason. Despite this, she chooses to go down. Before long, a hole starts to open in the ceiling of the floor where Hikaru is. By the time he realizes, he's already under Aki Murasama's control. She confesses that she didn't understand why the boy didn't finish her off when she was defenseless, but he has no clue what she's talking about. Regardless, she demands to know what Hikaru's intentions are with Alma, even though her own arm tries to explain that the kid has no ill will. Despite this, Aki orders the two of them to prove the bond they share, and her arm starts emitting its power again, but soon grows weak. Faced with this, Aki declares that Hikaru is only harming the trigger arm, so she'll have to get rid of the boy. Shirayama bursts in, misinterpreting the situation, and runs off immediately, thinking he's interrupting some kind of romantic moment between the two. Warner seizes the opportunity of the open door to break into the old school and go after Hikaru. Hikaru notices that the strange man is wearing a Kagami group uniform, while Warner reveals his mecha-yude to eliminate Alma's host. Using a sonic shot that stuns its target, the spy opens the door, completely giving Tuz, who's ready with a long-range rifle, a clear line of sight to take the student out. Hikaru barely manages to escape and starts running again, while the spy keeps shooting at him. Warner continues the chase until the boy is stunned again at the end of the hallway. The sniper locks onto her target and fires another shot, but Aki steps in to protect the innocent student with her metallic arm. With that, she reports back to her base, saying she's found two chained mecha-yudes, but they don't seem to be of the worm type. Noticing Warner's presence, the ARMS member assumes he's a henchman from Akagami Group's Expansion Department 3. Alma asks what a chained mecha-yude is, and one of Aki's arms explains that the chain is a device that steals the consciousness of robots, turning them into slaves. With that, Aki tells Hikaru to hide with Alma while she handles the situation. As Hikaru retreats, Warner throws luminous blades at his enemy. Far from the action, Hikaru is already tired of running from these strange people, but he keeps going. Alma, on the other hand, doesn't believe they should be fleeing and rebels against this decision, refusing to leave Aki and the mecha-yudes behind. Hikaru threatens to stay behind out of fear of getting killed, but ultimately gives in and chases after the metallic arm. At the bottom of the stairs, Alma is almost collapsing from being so far away from the boy, so Hikaru approaches and asks the robot to stop acting tough, knowing the condition he's in. He then places the trigger other arm on his shoulder and starts thinking of how he might fight back against that sonic shot. Meanwhile, Tuz asks her partner for an update but gets no response, so she decides to head into the facility. Inside, the henchman had managed to immobilize and chain Aki's mecha youths. He offers her to use them as she pleases thanks to the chains, but she makes it clear that she's not like him. Either way, she is carried outside where Tuz is waiting and wants to know what happened to the trigger arm. Her partner explains that it's hidden somewhere inside the old school, prompting Tuz to change the subject and focus on Aki. She laments not being able to kill the arms member right then and there because her orders are to take her away. Fortunately for the Kagami thugs, Hikaru shows up carrying the organization's primary target. Despite the villain's confidence, Hikaru assures them it won't be as easy as last time. Ignoring this, Warner fires the sonic shot again, but this time the boy is prepared wearing noise-canceling headphones. Having escaped the attack unscathed, the kid throws his metallic arm towards Aki since her mecha youths need to be freed from the chains. The problem is Hikaru always needs to stay close to the arm to keep it from malfunctioning, so he jumps towards Alma but gets hit by Tuz's rifle, losing one side of his headphones in the process. Even so, the plan works and Aki is freed. Without hesitation, she uses Tuz as a shield against the sonic shot and lunges at Warner. With her protection holding up, Aki is able to close the distance with the Kagami member and land a powerful blow. Since Tuz had taken the sonic blast, she's also taken down. Finally, the entire fight causes the old school's structure to collapse. Tuz escapes, but Warner is left behind. Other arms members arrive at that moment and criticize Aki Murasame for the mess she's caused, then ask about Alma. Meanwhile, security personnel from a facility decide to contact White Raven as someone has stolen the artificial mecha Yude Uroboros, which is extremely dangerous. Back to Hikaru, he is taken to ARMS headquarters, an organization that fights against the Akagami group and was formed to free the mecha youths from their chains. The leader of the organization introduces himself as LGs and says that the name of his mecha youth is Fist. Fist calls Alma little brother and assures him that he will soon remember who he is. However, despite needing Alma's help, they make it clear that they don't need Hikaru. If you're enjoying this journey, don't forget to hit that like button. Your support helps motivate me to keep bringing you each episode. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update.